Good morning all and welcome to the last webinar of 2021 and before all the festivities begin. Today's going to be a bit of a mixed bag. We're going to talk a lot about what do clients want for Christmas, and then we've got our bizarre mixed Secret Santa from Jump in the way of a quiz because we couldn't meet each other to give each other a Secret Santa present. So we're going to do some sort of quiz from there. Now, normally I have facts about what clients want for Christmas, but obviously there is no facts about that. So I'm going to use some very stupid facts about Christmas that you can use over the dining room table. So did you know the London-based baker, confectioner Tom Smith invented the Christmas cracker in 1847 after being inspired by the French bonbons that crackled on his log fire? Do we also know that Paul Sharp is still using those jokes from those Christmas?
Indeed he is.
During NASA's Gemini 6A spaceflight on the 16th of December 1965, Jingle Bells was the first song to be played in space. And we still keep thinking Paul Jacobs on his guitar should be sent to space so we can't hear him, but we keep working on that one from there. Mistletoe, its true meaning is dung on a stick in Anglo-Saxon. So think about that when we are sort of kissing our next of kin, etc., etc., etc. It's all about the spreading of bird droppings. There you go.
I thought you said dove on a stick.
No, dung. D-U-N-G, dung on a stick.
You said dung on a stick, D-O-N-E, and I was really holding my breath as to what you were going to say next, Howard.
In a recent survey, the UK-based online retailer Matalan found that 4 in 5 respondents own a Christmas jumper. So me and you, Dave, we must be absolutely out of that because we haven't got a Christmas jumper whatsoever from there.
Sorry.
The biggest present ever given was at 225 tons, which was the Statue of Liberty from France to the USA in 1866. And do we know that over millions and millions of Japanese family now since the 70s, they celebrate Christmas with a party barrel from Kentucky Fried Chicken? So, Xmas is not a new term. The actual word dates back to the mid-1500s and it gets its roots from the Greek letter X. And X is the Greek word for Christ. So Xmas is a very old word.
No, I like that one. That's
there you go, there you go. And do you realize if you put all the gifts together that are listed in the 12 Days of Christmas song, you'd get 364 presents. So every day bar Christmas Day is a present day. So today I'm joined by Mr. Dave Pye and Heather Happy Christmas Ho 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 Sorway with her hat on. Mr. Jacobs is in a board meeting and Mr. Sharp is with his family. So today what we're going to do, we're going to do a different thing. We're going to talk about what clients want for Christmas, but also what we're going to do, we're going to put them on the screen, some facts that each one of us, and there's only I that know all the facts, have said about what they've done around about Christmas. So we want you to guess who those people are. And if you want to stick your hand up and have a conversation, then by all means, stick your hand up, have a conversation, ask who they are, talk about who they are from there. We want to make it as interactive as humanly possible. So Dave and Heather, if you were a client, what would you want for Christmas from an agency?
So these are the serious bits of our webinar today.
These are serious bits.
This is not silly answers, but genuinely what I would want as a client and what I always wanted when I was a client of recruitment businesses is transparency. So I want my recruitment business to honestly tell me. I love your slides, by the way, Howard. Sorry, utterly distracted by that. Absolutely love the slides. Well done. Yeah, I want transparency, and really closely linked to that is honesty. So if you can help me fill my vacancy, tell me you can help me fill my vacancy. If you can't, don't tell me that you can. And if I, as a client, need to change my behaviours, tell me about it. So honesty and transparency is what I'm after from a recruitment business next year.
And I think for me, in addition to that, Heather, what I would want is information so that I can be educated at what is going on. Because I think often we assume that everybody knows what's going on in the market, where the shortages are. There's so much data available. But lots of clients I speak to, they just don't know. And I tell them, and I will say, this is happening. What did you get from your agency, or does your consultant tell you this? And they don't. And most of the data, most of it is free.
Yeah.
It's just about putting it together and saying, are you aware these are the trends in your area? These are the trends in your sector. These are the trends that's going on. And I think it's funny, isn't it, when you look at what's going on in the wider world with Boris and announcements and no announcements and what's coming and what's not coming, it's that lack of clarity that causes everybody frustration. And so if I was an agency owner, I'd want my agency to say, actually, Dave, this is what's going on, this is when it's going to happen, this is what you should be planning for. And I would feel really happy if I had that.
I think it's interesting, isn't it, that we're all saying the same things, that, you know, that honesty, integrity that lots of people have on their websites. And I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I said most recruitment agencies are out and outliers, purely because every time they take a job from a client, they say, yes, of course, we can fill that job. And then as soon as the phone goes down, how are we going to find candidates for this? We haven't got any candidates, etc. So I think that honesty, that open approach is really important. And that sort of links back into your comment there, Dave, about using data and how that works. And I think if I was a client, that's what I want. I want to create a stronger, deeper relationship with my recruitment agency, so it benefits me and benefits them. And to that, it is all about the communication between the two parties. So if you can tell me why you can't find the people, then maybe I'm able to change the type of person I'm looking for. And that's the bits that I really want to sort of get stuck into, is sort of like, what can I do to actually find the people, rather than just sat there hoping, because all the agencies I've spoken said, yeah, we can find these people, and yet we can't find these people. So I'd want to have that person to actually tell me, go, these are the reasons why you can't find that person. This is what you can do about it. This is what you need to change. And if that's then within my remit that I can do that, then to me, that starts to progress the relationship of trust and advocacy with our clients, and work from there. So to me, that's what I'd be starting to look for straight away. So the bigger question, though, of the day is, Dave and Heather, obviously you've no idea who these people are. And obviously, guys, if you want to ask a question and if you've got an idea of who this person is, who has an obsession with Christmas lights? Who's that person who their partner hasn't or isn't obsessed with them, and they've actually added lights after light after light after light, inside and outside, and now have to call the National Grid before they switch them on? Dave, who is that?
Well, I've just seen Joe's note to say it could well be Paul. I don't know. I'm going to go Paul Sharp has an obsession with Christmas lights.
Paul Sharp has a Christmas obsession. Oh, that's an interesting one indeed. I'm going to make a note of these and mark them down. So, Dave, on question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dave's gone PS. Paul Sharp. Heather, what's your view of that one and how that looks?
Well, I'm influenced by Joe's response about Paul Jacobs. I do, and I particularly like the Office Angels pink remark. I think that's an interesting suggestion, Joe. I like that. And actually, Howard, I'm going to go for you for this. I think behind the gruff, I'm not wearing a Christmas hat or a Christmas jumper exterior, I think there lies the heart of a man who is obsessed with Christmas lights and would think nothing of sneaking an extra set in every year.
Well, there you go. That's an interesting call. Obviously, I know who these people are, so I can't really sort of put my steer on whether it is. But I do like Joe's comment there about Paul. I've never seen pink Christmas lights, mainly because I'm colourblind, and they're there just in front of me, just dazzling me constantly. But I can just imagine Paul sort of out in his garden, spreading Christmas lights across the trees, etc., etc. I can just see Paul doing that. So let's move on to the next one. So if anyone's got any questions or anyone's got any ideas on who they are, by all means, join in on the chat or put your hand up, and we can open up your mic and we can have a conversation with you from there. So if
are you revealing the answers at the end? Sorry, Howard.
I'm going to reveal the answers at the end. Of course, I'm going to reveal the answers at the end.
Just checking.
We don't have to wait till 2022 to find out.
Yeah, I'm going to keep you all in Christmas suspenders from there and to the end. Okay. So if we had one gift card to give an agency for 12 months exclusivity, bearing in mind we're clients, remember. So if we had one gift card to give a client, an agency, 12 months exclusivity, if I can say the word, what type of agency would you give it to and why?
Well, I really like this question. So it massively depends on who you are as a client. So I'm going to make a big assumption here, and I'm going to assume that I'm a client who has one particular type of staff that it needs a lot of, and then has occasional vacancies in other teams, in which case I would give my gift card, which would be covered in tinsel and glitter, to a specialist agency, a genuine specialist agency with a very much of a inch wide, mile deep thinking, who acts as a true consultant in their field of specialism. So that's what I would give. And of course, they would have to be a jump client, clearly, because that just shows an openness to, taking advice and support and sharing and learning and development. So, and for me, that's the sign of an amazing agency.
It's a good question, isn't it? I think I would give it to an agency that had the intelligence to work out that one agency isn't the sole answer to everything, and that would be reaching out and partnering with other companies to provide me as the client a service. Because often we think, don't we, that we have to have all the answers to all the problems and create all the solutions for our clients. And often we don't. Often we can partner with another company and come up with a solution. And I think if one thing the last couple of years has taught us, actually reaching out and making friends and business relationships with other companies that also provide a service really, really does work for clients. So I would want to give my gift card to an agency that had showed to me that it could provide a service, not just on its own, but with other companies as well.
I think it's an interesting, isn't it? When you've got one card and you've got lots of agencies sort of servicing you or trying to service you. And I think, to me, it's the one that gives me the most prospect to work with, the most opportunity to work with. And that goes back to the first question. It's the ones that give me the most honesty, the most data on how I can improve my business. And if I'm looking at the biggest thing that I want to get through my business this year, that would be candidates into my business. So I'd be looking at the agency who give the best candidate journey all the way through the process. The one that has the access to candidates and gives that candidate journey, which is all about service. So it's putting my company in a really good light out into the marketplace. So it's all about EVP, it's all about self-promotion of the business out there, but then I'm then working with that agency to help them do exactly the same for their business, how I can promote their business internally within my company and from there. So to me, it's all about that candidate journey and that link to the candidate marketplace that we can get. But the bigger question is, who on their first Christmas do got so drunk that they cracked the coach window with their head, trying to get off the coach whilst the driver was doing 30 miles an hour? Next morning, woke up with no bump, no bruise, and no memory of doing it. Dave
My
Pye.
question is, how did they know? Did somebody film it, or did somebody else tell them about it?
I can't tell you that. I can't answer that question. Dave Pye, what's your view of that?
Am I allowed to answer Paul Sharp for all of them?
You can answer Paul Sharp for absolutely everything, yes, James.
Well, I don't know, Howard. I'm gonna go with you on this one.
Oh, you're going with me on this one, okay?
Can I just say that universally the chat agrees, right? So
well, I can imagine
the chat is giving me some stick here, yeah. And
I can imagine you doing it and then waking up and thinking, no idea, it wasn't me. And no bruise and no bump. Yeah.
And waking up and going, why is that coach in my bedroom? Who stole the coach?
Yeah.
Oh, so me there. Dave is giving me. Heather, who are you proportioning the blame on this one too?
This is an absolute no-brainer, and I'll be gobsmacked if I've got this wrong at the end. But Howard, this is you. It's got you written all over it. This is definitely a rugby player. And
do you know, I'm almost blushing here, but that is no admittance of guilt whatsoever, and nor can you take me to court on that if it was me. But we'll find out at the end. So it'll be interesting to see whether I'm vindicated or whether I'm hung, drawn, and
I'm just looking at your head. I'm looking at your head in the light from your window and thinking, is that the sort of head that could crack a window without a bruise? And you know, I'm not in any mind to change my answer, Howard.
Right, fair enough, fair enough. So if you were an agency owner and you could project 12 months from now, what advice would you be giving to clients? And no sort of COVID only answer type for the business. What sort of business advice would you be giving your clients if you were an agency owner now?
I think I would go full on Barack Obama and start to say to them, yes, we can, or you can do this. Because we've all had the most unusual, unplanned last 18 months, and yet we're still here. We've still got our people, and we're still dealing with our clients. And I think whatever's going to come at us around the corner, I want to say to my clients, we can get through this. You can get through this. You've got the skills, you've got the people. And I would stand on that platform like he did in Chicago and say, yes, we can.
Interesting. I agree with that. I think that's really true. I think it's all too easy in what's been a really challenging year to take your eye off the ball and just say, I'm just going to deal with what's in front of me, and to stop doing that kind of planning piece, isn't it? And be ambitious and have goals and say that you can do it. So I agree with that, Dave. I think in addition, I'd be saying to clients, we're probably in for another challenging year. I think we're probably in for quite an unpredictable year again. So I really question whether anybody can tell us what's actually going to happen next year with, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to mention COVID, but with COVID, but also with the economy and with all of the world economy, the British economy. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. So I think I'd be saying to clients, really don't take your eye off the ball with your hiring strategy. Think long term. Think about developing your own people, not losing people. You know, I'd be wanting to act as a consultant to my clients and say, prepare for more uncertainty. And that's your hiring strategy, your people strategy. Think about how you can help people be resilient to cope with another year of change and unpredictability.
As I sort of wrote these questions, I was sort of a bit mindful of what we were trying to sort of push out and what we were trying to get from agency owners and from a client's point of view. And I looked at this question and I came up with lots of different sort of answers. And what I plugged for was that, you know, 12 months is a long time, but unless you plan what you want to achieve in that 12 months, then how do you know you're going in the right direction? So I think the first thing would be make sure that you have a plan and then go back and execute on that plan really quickly. But don't be someone who prognosticates all the time and dithers about things. If things aren't going right, change and alter the plan. The plan should be fluid. And I think it's about adapting to that every single movement. But unless you've got a plan, then if you start to adapt, going left, going right, going all the way around, you end up going round and round in circles. So you've got to have a plan and a direction that you're going in, and then being able to execute that plan. If things aren't working, change them quickly. So have a plan and be tied to changing things quickly, because I think it's really important that we just don't carry on plowing the same furrow if we cannot get ourselves, you know, around that obstacle, etc., etc. So I think it's an interesting view that it's all a bit, to me, is about planning, following the plan, but then make quick decisions if that plan isn't going wrong or going right. So the bigger question, though, who once saved the life of a manager in a restaurant as she was choking by performing the Heimlich maneuver, and a few weeks later had to return to remove the person from the business? Can you believe that? Christmas time as well.
Mr. Joe thinks it's me.
Yeah, well, I know. I've noticed Joe straight away. He looked at the HR point and said, "Yes, have to go back and remove the person from the business." That sounds like a HR.
And I have to confess that over a long career in recruitment, I have been responsible for removing 1 or 2 people from 1 or 2 businesses.
I am shocked.
It's an inevitable part of an HR job, but am I someone who could perform the Heimlich maneuver in a restaurant?
There's a question.
Who
do you think it is, though, Heather?
I think that this one actually is Paul Jacobs.
You think this is Paul Jacobs?
I'm going to go for Paul Jacobs for this one.
I was thinking it could be Paul Jacobs because he would think the Heimlich maneuver is something you play on the guitar. So he would be playing the Heimlich maneuver, doing really well. I don't know. I think I'm kind of going with Joe again on this one. I think it's Heather.
Oh, you think it's Heather?
With your HR background, Heather, and I could see you getting over and saving someone. That's a great story.
So it's interesting, isn't it? That here's a fun fact that I did find out that obviously Jesus and Santa Claus, although in the Jewish book they have slightly different versions of that. Do we know that the top 5 best-selling Christmas carols and jingles were all written by Jewish people?
Did not know that. That is a good
now
fact.
You do. Now you do.
You are a font of good knowledge. For
I've
we
had
haven't
so
got
much.
Mr. Jacobs on here. He could perform them for us.
I've had so much fun this morning reading some very, very boring Christmas facts. I always thought that Christmas was 2021 years old. Well, actually, we only started celebrating Christmas really in something like the 1600s. But then
Santa Claus was only red, wasn't he, when Coca-Cola got involved?
1934, when Coca-Cola got involved. And do we know that Oliver Cromwell banned Christmas for 30 years?
Goodness me.
I thought that was Alan Rickman in Robin Hood.
I did see a very funny Alan Rickman meme about the order in which you have to watch films, so that you watch Love Actually first, and then you watch Die Hard so that you can see Alan Rickman being punished for doing the dirty on Emma Thompson.
Very good, very good, very good. So the question, though, is, or back to the managers, who do we think it is? It's quite an interesting question, and it's quite a lot to go on. So I think there's there. But the question is, so far, Dave has gone Paul Sharp, me, and now Heather. Yeah. Heather has gone me, and PJ. And could I just say, I'm just going to give this so far, and I'm going to give it to everybody on the board as well that's giving their votes in here. So far, out of all the questions, we've only got one person that has got one of the questions right.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Oh, now there's a giveaway. But which one person's got the question right, and what are we doing on that question? So the next question is, if you were Scrooge, what home truths would you be telling your agency?
Ooh, interesting. Do you know what? It'd be interesting. If I was Scrooge, I think the question would be different if I'm telling my agency leader or if I'm telling my agency staff.
Well, we're telling agency leaders because that is who we've got on the webinar today. It's mainly agency leaders. So what would we be telling that agency leader?
I'd be telling them that their teams don't always behave in the way in which they think they do. So I think sometimes agency leaders, if they did a secret shopper, I was going to say secret Santa there because I'm in theme, but a secret shopper and took a call from some of their recruitment consultants, would be quite surprised, because I think all of our recruitment leaders absolutely set out to run amazing professional businesses, and I think sometimes some of their teams let them down in the way in which they will talk to people, and I'm sure it's not true of people on this call, but let them down in the way in which they talk, and they kind of slapdash cold calls. I've certainly been on the receiving end of slapdash, because I had the title HR director when I was engaged. I used to get cold calls all the time that were just appalling. So that would be my Scrooge, is get closer to your teams, get don't stop training, don't stop quality controlling. Make sure you're really, really close to what the version of your organization that your staff are representing.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Tiny Tim?
I think I would say to the agency leader, make sure that 2022 is the year where you open your minds even further than you have had to in the last couple of years. We're all going to need a lot more people to grow our businesses, and we're going to have to find them in a completely different place. And open minds, open doors. And there are lots of people out there who are looking for work, who can do work, but not in the same way that we think that they can. And if we can open our minds as much as possible, we may find a different talent pool from a different geography or a different sector or a different ability, whatever it may be. But the ones that do that, I think will find the people faster, hopefully keep them, and then grow faster.
So I think it's quite interesting that if clients were really open and honest, I think what Heather said there is really important, is that, you know, it's not your perception of your business that counts, it's the client's perception of the business that counts.
Yeah.
And if a client is coming back and telling you this is what's going on, or this is how I've been felt, been treated, etc., that you need to sort of view that. And I think that's about then going out and testing the temperature of your client's feelings towards you. Where are you on that client journey? Where are you within that relationship? If you think you've got this relationship that you are bosom buddies and they really don't see that at all, then there's a massive disconnect. And I think that goes back to things that we've said quite a lot this year, that we see lots of clients as, we see them as an opportunity and we see them as a genuine prospect, where a lot of clients just see us as suspect and treat us as suspect, and yet we never actually sit and ask the clients why they treat us suspect. So I think I'm going to join with Heather there that my Scrooge would be to tell them whole truths about what people think about their agency, and it's up to them then how they change that and what they do to change that. But the bigger question is, who went to their partner's Xmas do dressed as Benny from ABBA? The outfit was handmade, but the size was taken by measuring their partner. This person then had to wear a tablecloth for most of the evening. Mr. Pye.
Well, I'm just thinking it's the sort of thing that Paul Sharp would do. He's a fun guy. I can imagine him dressed as ABBA often, not just for Christmas. I can imagine him sitting there, getting up one morning and thinking, shall I be Benny or Bjorn? I don't know. And then pumping for Agatha and going that way. I'm going to go Paul Sharp.
You're going to go with Paul Sharp. Okay, Paul Sharp again. So Mr. Sharp comes out with that. And we've got lots of people on the wall. Yeah, we've got Paul Sharp, spitting image. Okay, PJ all day long from Milo. And Deborah Austin is agreeing with PJ as well from there. PJ all day long. Heather, where's your...
I'm torn because Paul Sharp was my instinct, my first go-to answer to this. Sometimes you've got to go with your gut, haven't you? And Paul Sharp was definitely... But there's quite a lot of voting on the chat for PJ. However, I'm pretty confident with my decision on the Heimlich manoeuvre being PJ. So, so that's, I'm going to rule them out. Dave, don't think this one's you. Don't think this one's you. So it goes between Howard and Mr. Sharp. Howard and the coach, pretty confident with the old head banging, but then Howard said, we haven't got many answers right. So
look at you getting all paro
try and be clever. With this one. I'll tell you what, I'm going with Howard.
There you go. You're going with me. There you go with me. So old Vera, the detective here, is now sort of working out from certain clues. He's getting up there and sort of working out on certain... Vera
the detective. Thanks, Howard.
there you go. And I will apologise for the picture of Abba. I've just noticed the shadow of the hand is placed in a rather sort of fortuitous position, and I've just noticed that. So I do apologise for that picture from there. But so that's some interesting there. So we've got lots of people going for PJ. One person going for Paul Sharp, one person going for me from there. Oh, so it's all sort of people in the mixing bag on who's doing what and how it goes. But interesting comment that you've literally discounted Dave Pye on everything, Heather, which is quite funny. You've just discounted him there, as has most of the audience. Dave Pye, the grey man from there. So if we put COVID to one side, what would you want under the tree? Remember, you're a client, so keep your answers clean.
I was going to say about the ABBA thing, which made me smile. That if Adifrid and Agnetha had been joined by Steve and Dave instead of Benny and Bjorn, ABBA would have been Asda.
You've got that joke again from
Which
Mr. Sharp. Again.
I like. What would I have under the
See, I want to go for a political answer here, but I need to avoid politics. Go
for political answer. Go for a political answer.
No, I mean a controversial political argument. I'd like a different government personally, but that's not the answer.
That's not the answer. But could very well be the answer. So, what would you want under the tree then, Heather, if you were a client?
Okay, if I was a client, I would. So this is just pie in the sky because it can't happen, but I would want to be able to predict what next year is going to be like. I'd like some certainty about what next year is going to be. Now, whether that is in terms of my ability to grow my business because of having some understanding of the economy and the political decisions that are going to be made and how that impacts the government, or actually closer to home, it's about certainty about my staff and my team and their trajectory. So I would want the gift of understanding my team, of understanding my people, of understanding their ambitions for the next year and how they fit into my plans and my growth. So that's a bit of a wish list. One not achievable, the other one very definitely achievable. To get really close to your team and to understand, am I going to have a turnover problem next year?
So that is almost a Christmas carol, isn't it? Peace and goodwill to all men is what you're saying there, and understanding what everyone wants for Christmas. I have that struggle every year. What do I buy people for Christmas? I have no idea, even though I've known my brother for 55 years and I've still no idea what to buy him for Christmas. Dave.
Yeah, it's a great question, isn't it? And I think the latter point that Heather's just made about our people, I think if I could have a gift of just knowing what's on my people's minds and just being able to understand that, so that as I build my business, I'm conscious that it's actually with their view in mind as well. Because if they're happy and there's some certainty and confidence about them, then I know that my business will be in a strong place. And I think there's been so much uncertainty and so much distress that I think something that would give certainty would be excellent.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you could have the political answer, you could have the we don't want COVID, you could have the political answer, etc., etc. And we've all talked about our people. And I think, if I could have anything under the tree, it would be all about the well-being of the people, the well-being of everybody within your business, the well-being of your clients, the well-being of your suppliers, because I think it's important that people start to understand that, if you have a healthy workforce, you have a far more productive workforce. And that starts with the person right at the very top. And it's interesting the amount of things that you read on LinkedIn, etc., about people who've got burnout, people who are burning out, people who are so tired and they're so welcoming the break at Christmas, etc., etc. But we shouldn't be waiting just for an event at the end of the year just to have a break and cure burnout. We should be thinking about the health of everybody all the way through that process, and that's the health of you as well as a person and as a leader, because you're the person, you've got to be fit enough to lead, and your team have got to be fit enough to compete in the marketplace. So I think that health and happiness is a real interesting point to sort of drive through, and sort of it's nothing to really do with business, but it's everything that enables business and enables people to move forward from there. But the bigger question: who spent a whole day dressed as an 8-foot kangaroo outfit singing carols in a shopping mall? The man who was supposed to be wearing the outfit, it was too heavy. I can't work out whether it was the man was too heavy or the outfit was too heavy. Didn't turn up. This person was the most junior employee, so drew the short straw. So Joe's gone for me again. So I've now gone from the headbutting glass window with the player to now a 8-foot kangaroo. Nice, thanks, Joe.
I think this one might be Dave.
Oh well, you haven't gone for Dave on anybody else.
I haven't, no. So I'm feeling Dave on this one by process of elimination, because I didn't think any of the others were Dave. But also, Dave, I think you've got it in you to spend a whole day singing Christmas carols to help a team when they needed you. So that's in your bailiwick, I think, that you would do that. So I will go Dave on this one.
See, it's strange, isn't it? The biggest grossing Christmas film is The Grinch with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And he wore that suit, and he said it was so painful wearing that suit that he brought a Navy SEAL in to teach him how to get round torture, etc., so he could survive there. Oh my goodness gracious, Mr. Jacobs has just appeared from nowhere.
Oh, now I'll have to stop taking the mickey.
We haven't
Hello, Mr. Jacobs.
From there. So it's an interesting comment that we think Dave Pye can manage to survive in an 8-foot kangaroo suit. Dave, what's your thoughts?
Well, I was hoping it was going to be PJ, because I would just love it to be. Whether it is or it isn't.
Okay, so it's an interesting shout, isn't it, that we've got?
Welcome, Paul.
PJ,
hi guys.
You can't obviously join the quiz now, Paul, because you weren't meant to be here today. And yesterday we had this discussion about who did what, and you got every single one wrong.
Everyone wrong, completely wrong.
Everyone wrong. And can I say it's following a similar trend at this moment in time from every single person on this. We have Heather, commonly known as Vera, the Northeast detective, working everything out from certain areas, and we've got Dave. I've no clue what's going on. So, Dave, who's your guess on the kangaroo?
I'll go PJ.
You're going PJ, just for the stature that it's the only time that PJ will be 8 foot.
I was about to say 8 foot. I don't think so. I'm about half of that size.
Which actually means that links back to your first question, Dave. That means that if he's 8 foot, he can actually start to hang out all the Christmas lights. So let's come to the end and let's sort of finish with who did what. So first of all, thank you guys for turning out. It's the last Wednesday of the year, really, for from a work point of view. There's 12 people on here, which is great. So thanks very much for your attendance. It's much appreciated. So the first question then was, who was the person that has got a huge Christmas light fetish? We had Paul Sharp from Dave. Heather voted me. Most of the crew voted Paul Sharp. Here we go. The answer was Heather is the person who has the Christmas light fetish, and I think she threw us from having no Christmas lights in the background from that place whatsoever.
I thought my Christmas hat would give it away. I'm obsessed with Christmas.
Absolutely obsessed with Christmas.
So genuinely, I've been married 30 years. My husband hates Christmas lights, was a real Grinch about them, but every single year I've added one extra set of lights to the house for 30 years, and we are now festooned with lights.
Festooned, I like that. What a Christmas word. Festooned.
Yeah, what a Christmas light. So and
festoon.
I think I'm winning him round, but it's just gently.
I'm going to bring down the national grid.
I think.
Yeah.
I think I've worked out why so many energy providers are going bust.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And why he's in Namibia, not at home.
The second question caused a lot of controversy on the vote because I got the whole vote for the second one. Who got so drunk on their first Christmas do that they tried to get off a coach doing 30 miles an hour, smashed their head into a window, cracked the window, and woke up without a bruise, not remembering anything, not feeling anything, having a clue what was happened. You all voted for Howard Greenwood. The survey says Mr. Paul Sharp is the drunken man. So I'd like to think the apologies will be flowing my way.
No, that could have been you. That could have been you.
Stereotypical nation, what's this about diversity and DE&i? Stereotypical version of Howard Greenwood? Absolutely not. So yes, that was Mr. Paul Sharp. So he's not here to defend himself or give any further insight into the situation. So there we go. So far, nobody has got a question right.
No, it's not good, is it?
That is not good. Okay. So the third question was, who performed the Heimlich maneuver on one of their managers in a restaurant and then had to return a couple of weeks later to dismiss the person? Now, Dave went for Heather. Heather went for PJ. Most of the group on the chat went for Heather because of her HR and her vicious and fictitious manner when she speaks to people. Went for Heather. I'm afraid to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it was her Paul Jacobs.
It's me.
I knew this one because I remembered Paul telling us this. I can't believe
Heather.
he told us this, and Joe on the comments got this wrong, and he was there when Paul told the story.
It's a true story. I have to tell you, it's a true story. And I said to Howard that it's one of those things where, I'm sure other people listening have had similar experience where you think it didn't really happen. I probably invented it over the years, but actually I bumped into somebody at an awards ceremony who said to me, "Oh, do you remember me? I used to work at such and such an office, and you came up one time, and do you remember you did the Heimlich maneuver on my manager because she was choking on a bone because we went to a chop house, which was a couple of doors down." And I remember sitting at the table and she was choking and people were patting her on the back, banging her hard, and she couldn't breathe. And her eyes were getting wider and bulging and watering, and she was going red in the face. And, it's a slow motion thing, which probably happened in seconds, but it seemed to be happening slowly. I raced around, bringing into practice my Boy Scout practice. And I did the thing, the Heimlich maneuver, where you put your fist in somebody's solar plexus and you basically thump it. And it worked. I went bang, and she went like this, and this bone shot out of her throat. Now, in my imagination, I believe, and this may not be true, I think it hit a diner on the head. I'd like to think.
Here we go.
I'd like that's a bit of embellishment, Mr. Jacobs.
Embellishment. That may be the bit I invented. Anyway, she took a couple of deep breaths and she was fine again. But the funny part about the story was that several weeks later, we discovered this person was doing naughty things, shall we say, with certain things. I've got to be careful what I say here. And I was commanded to go and release her of her responsibility.
You see, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. This was one time when it wasn't me.
So it wasn't Heather, but I will say this, Mr. Jacobs, that most people thought that you weren't big enough to actually perform the Heimlich maneuver. There you go. But that leaves the next question was, who went to their partner's Christmas do dressed as Benny from ABBA?
I've got the hat.
And then had to wear a tablecloth most of the evening because the suit was rather small. Most people went for, actually, Mr. Jacobs went for Paul Sharp. Most people went for Paul Sharp. Heather, who is becoming the true Vera. That was genuinely me. And let me tell you, my partner at the time, I'm 6'1". My partner at the time was about 5'2" and built like my finger. And when they went to a fancy dress shop and said, "Look, we want to go as ABBA," because there was 4 of us going. So her friend was a doctor as well, and they were serving in Harrogate. Her husband was a major in the army, based out of Ripon, and he was bigger than me. And these two girls were very sort of slight and petite. The manager said, look, we haven't got any fancy dress costumes. They've all been out. They're all out. But if you want to go out, but I can rustle them up really, really quickly. And so they said, well, what size are your husbands? And they had no idea. He said, why don't you just measure it off us and just put them a little bit bigger? That should be fine. And when we got changed, with these two got changed, and their costumes looked brilliant and looked flowing and lovely. And me and this guy got into our costumes. I am not kidding you. I couldn't even get a pair of underpants underneath. They were that tight and that thin. And we sort of shuffled to this hotel in Harrogate. And the both of us sat down and looked at each other at the same time and said, has the same thing happened to you as what's just happened to me? He went, yep. And we'd split the trousers all the way around, and we ended up having to wear tablecloths for the whole evening. It was a shocking performance. But that is true. So, very there. Which only leaves who was the 8-foot kangaroo. And so that can only be Mr. Dave Pye was the man that sang outside a shopping mall Christmas carols dressed as an 8-foot kangaroo. Dave, expand on that a little bit for us.
I worked in America for a professional indoor soccer team called the Kalamazoo Kangaroos. And our job was to promote the soccer team and to promote soccer. And I just started working with them. And we had this magnificent, heavy kangaroo costume, and we used to go around and do all sorts of things at schools and things like that with the team. And the guy who was supposed to be in this costume didn't turn up for this Christmas Carol concert we were doing in the Kalamazoo Mall. So I drew the short straw and had to put this thing on. I thought I was going to wear it for a few carols. And it was all day, and Howard, it was heavy.
I bet it was heavy. I bet.
And I can say I don't think I sang much. It's just groaning.
So what I can say is that most people on the vote probably got one question right, and most got no questions right. Mr. Dave Pye got no questions right. Mr. Paul Jacobs got none of the questions right.
None.
Heather, who will now be forever known as Vera, got 3 out of the 5. She sat there very smugly, smiling well. How depressing that she knows us that well is really, really shocking. I think some of it was by a process of elimination. I'd like to thank you guys for coming on today. It's been absolutely brilliant giving you some stories about our personal backgrounds, etc., etc. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and the most happy and prosperous New Year. We look forward to seeing you again in the new year. We're still debating whether to come back on the 5th because we think a lot of people might be off on the 5th, or give you a break until the 12th. It's probably going to be the 12th. But if you want to send in some ideas of what you want us to talk about at the beginning of the new year, that'd be much appreciated. But all from Jump would just like to wish you, as I say, a very Merry Christmas and the most prosperous new year. 2022, I can see it being an absolutely huge new year. So go, enjoy your break, enjoy your rest, because 2020, we're going to hit it running. Guys, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, everybody. Happy Christmas. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heather. See you later. Happy Christmas.
Take care. Bye, everybody.